Good afternoon. I want to welcome everyone to the K-5 virtual town hall meeting. I'm Joey Parkle, Deputy Superintendent of Schools. I'm filling in this afternoon for Dr. Bearden. He wanted me to let you all know that he apologized that he's not able to make this virtual town hall meeting, but he was invited to attend the White House to participate. I'm not sure what happened there, but anyway, I think we have that fixed. So anyway, Dr. Bearden wanted me to make sure that that I said to you all that he apologized he wasn't able to make the meeting. He was invited to attend a meeting at the White House with the President, the First Lady, the Vice President, the Second Lady. They participated today, he did, in dialogue at the White House on safely reopening America's schools. So that was quite an honor for our superintendent. So we're really proud of him and proud of the fact that he was able to participate in that. I would like to, one thing that he wanted me to share with you in opening this meeting this afternoon is that the draft guidelines are on our website. So I know that most of you have looked at those or will be looking at those, but the draft guidelines are posted on our school's website. There's one significant change to the language in those guidelines, and that is the language regarding the wearing of masks. That language has been changed to expected. Masks are not required, but they are expected. We will expect it. We will positively promote it. I want to make sure that everyone understands that there will be no, that will not be incentivized. There will be no incentives for students who wear masks. There will be no consequences for students who do not wear masks. But all of our staff and administrators will be positively promoting that. So that's one of the biggest changes in the language in the guidelines. So you will be able to see that as you look at the guidelines. So again, please make sure that you go and look at that. There's a board meeting that will happen this coming Thursday afternoon at 4 o'clock, a called board meeting where our Board of Education members will be discussing and approving our guidelines for reopening our schools. So we're excited about that. We're excited about having students being able to come back to school. The American Pediatricians Association has certainly given us information about how important they think that it is that students and children get back in schools with peers and in a routine, and we certainly believe that. So we feel good about the guidelines that we have, and we're excited for the fall to come and for students to get back in school. So at this time, I will turn the meeting over to our Associate Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, Ms. Leanne Rice.
Thank you. Parents and community members, we are so grateful that you're here tonight. We know that you have very important decisions to make. You make that decision. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the format that we're going to use this evening. I also want to thank you so very much for we had posted a link on our Restart Forsyth website and asked for questions, and you certainly provided those to us. And so we've taken the questions that you've submitted and we've grouped them into three main categories that we're going to address tonight. And so I've invited 3 of our district office staff to join me tonight and help explain and provide information on those 3 areas. So one of the first areas has to do with the safety guidelines. What is it going to look like in our building? What's going to happen if somebody tests positive in the building? How are we going to react? How are we going to keep our buildings clean and safe? And so we'll address that, that pretty big topic for you. You've also had questions about students with special needs, students with disabilities, and how are we going to support them in a virtual environment? And so we're going to address that too. And finally, the big questions you have revolve around, what does a virtual day look like? We've told you all along that it's going to look very different this fall than what we experienced in the spring. So we want to give you some more information about what a typical day would be like and what some of those expectations are for an elementary virtual day. Now, I also want to clarify that our meeting is centered around kindergarten through 5th grade, through the virtual experience for them. Many of you have also submitted questions related to the virtual experience in middle school and high school. And so we have updated our Restart Forsyth webpage with direct links that give you information about our Forsyth Virtual Academy. So you can go to the Restart Forsyth page and click on those direct links. You can also go to the Forsyth in 6th through 12th grade and you're interested in taking virtual classes, there is a registration form for you to complete. That needs to be completed by July 31st. And again, more information is on the Forsyth Virtual Academy website, as well as our Restart Forsyth website. Drew Hayes is the principal over that academy. Philip Lyerly is the assistant principal, and both administrators are anxiously and eagerly awaiting your questions and will respond to any of those inquiries that you do have. So we appreciate the follow-up and the support of those two administrators. If you're tuned in and you're a 6th through 12th grade parent, I did want to let you know that the beginning of our presentation is going to address some of our school procedures and safety guidelines, as well as special education considerations. And that may still apply to you in 6th through 12th grade. So if you want to stay tuned in to hear that information, we certainly welcome you for that. We're going to save the typical virtual day for elementary to the end of our presentation, so those of you that choose to can sign off at that time. So I would also like to clarify, one of the main questions parents asked was, what do you do if you are choosing the school option, the face-to-face school option? You don't need to do anything. We're assuming that you're coming back to school, to the face-to-face setting, but if you are choosing a virtual option, then we do need you to complete the link that's on the Restart Forsyth website. Some parents have asked also, how are we sharing that information? As soon as we get that information, we're sending it directly to the principals of the elementary schools so that they're starting a list of students within their buildings that have chosen the virtual option. And that way they're starting to plan for their classes that are face-to-face, as well as the classes that are virtual. It's also helping them start planning for how many teachers they need to utilize in the virtual setting. So that information is being shared directly with your children's principals at this time. So with that being said, that's just an overview of what we're going to be talking about this evening. And I'd like to introduce some of the people who will be joining us tonight. For our first section, the Director of Student Support Services, Debbie Smith, and she's going to be sharing some information with you about safety guidelines. Ms. Smith was able to meet with the Department of Public Health today from some of those guidelines that we have in our draft. And she's going to share a little bit more information. So, Ms. Smith, would you like to join us?
Certainly. Thank you, Leanne, and good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm glad you've tuned in. I'm going to share a little bit with you about safety, which includes social emotional learning and, of course, our physical safety within our schools. First, let me tell you a little bit about student support. We say student support, and often people don't know what that entails. So in our department, we provide support for student learning and student social emotional well-being and health. So our program in our department is inclusive of all K-12 school counselors. We have a mental health specialist. We have all of our school nurses, our wonderful, blessed school nurses. We have prevention services. We have a multi-tiered systems of support specialist that provides interventions for students that are having academic needs. We also have, I don't believe I said our school psychologists, our social workers, and we also have a district wellness coordinator. So all of this team works together to provide both your students and your staff the support that they need for great learning to take place. So let me start off. I think the most important thing to cover for you and in looking at your questions was the physical safety of your students in the school. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about what we've done and what our processes are and who we're partnering with to make sure that we give your student the very best physical environment in which to learn. One of our best partners is the Department of Public Health, and as Leanne told you, we met with them today and we reviewed their processes and what we need to do. So let me just start by saying that overall, the most profound question that I saw that you all wanted to know about was what happens in our schools if we have a student or a staff member that is diagnosed with COVID-19. So I will tell you that we will rely completely on the Department of Public Health. We will notify them. They in turn will notify the parent, and they will also notify the parents of any students that have been in contact with the student or teacher that has been diagnosed. So you will indeed be notified, and they will advise both of us on the appropriate procedures to take and how long that student or that teacher needs to remain in quarantine. Those procedures, just so you know, change quite often. So that's the reason we rely on our Department of Health to keep us updated on the most current information. In our schools, we've gone to great lengths to supply our school nurses with all the protective gear that they need. We have also asked our principals to designate an isolation room so that when a student or a staff member who is exhibiting symptoms that may be a possible COVID situation, our nurses are trained to do a plan to look for all of those symptoms, and if they feel like that this is a possibility, that student will be masked and immediately moved to the isolation room and monitored closely until their parent can come and get them. So we want to keep our clinics open for the students that need other things like medication and things like that. Our staff and our nurses have N95 masks. They have masks for our students if they need it. They have shields. They have protective gear. So we feel confident that we're doing the best for our students and also protecting our school nurses. One of the things that's going to be of the utmost importance at the beginning of the school year is really getting across the importance of proper hand washing. And we will implement hand washing strategically throughout the day. That will definitely be before lunch, after bathroom breaks, and whenever it's deemed necessary, like if students are sneezing or coughing, the time will be taken to allow that hand washing to occur. We have lots of wonderful videos to interest kids that talks all about hand washing, and that goes K-12. So that will be one of our priorities as we begin school. The other thing that will be a priority is the buses. I know there were a lot of questions about our buses and socially distancing on our school buses. We will do that. Mike Satterfield is our transportation director. He does a wonderful job. We work with him in training our bus drivers, and they will be wearing masks on the buses with kids. They have been trained in how to social distance as much as possible, but I'm not going to tell you it's going to be a complete social distance because that can be difficult on a school bus, as you can imagine. But please know we will take every precaution in that area. One thing that you can be assured of is after every route, our buses will be completely sanitized to keep the germs down. So that will be taken care of. Parents and guardians may choose to transport children to school. If you don't feel comfortable putting your child on the bus, that is certainly an option for you. The other thing that I think is important for you to understand is that Matt Wark is our facilities director and was very proactive in the spring about ordering plenty of disinfectant for our schools. Our custodial staff has worked hard to make sure that they have a great system in place to disinfect our schools. And we also have the option, if there is a COVID diagnosis, that school will receive a deep cleaning immediately. And so we feel confident that we can keep that under control. The other thing that I think is important to remember about coming back to school is the building of relationships. And really, this is important coming back to school and in the virtual environment too. So we've asked our principals and our teachers to take specific time at the beginning of the year, very intentional time, to build relationships with their students, to work on social emotional skills, and to designate time every day for classroom meetings, advisement, where there's a chance for students and teachers to get to know each other, where there's a chance for students to interact with other students. Because let's face it, it's almost 6 months since our children have been in school, and they're going to need time to reacclimate to the school environment. Also, our counselors are coming up with some guidance for virtual counseling so that we can offer our virtual learners, if that's what you choose, some of that social emotional learning opportunity at home. So, whichever you decide, we're going to make that a priority to build that skill level in your kids so that they feel confident in their learning. And it also has shown great research in building success, not only as they get higher up in school, but in life and having those soft skills, so to speak. The other thing that I wanted to address was training for our staff. We know that we're going to have students coming back to our schools that have had many experiences, some that are very diverse. And so we have developed some professional learning for all teachers and leaders around building trauma strategies within the classroom. And whether a student has experienced some type of trauma or has not experienced some type of trauma, these strategies are good for anyone. So they help students that maybe need a little support, but they also provide the resiliency for anything that comes their way later in life. So we're excited about that. We also have provided some training around self-care and wellness for both students and for teachers, because we feel like that's a very important thing that our staff and our students need to take seriously and important. So we're trying to reach the whole child and make sure that we are supporting the student in every way possible. The other question that we have received is, if a student is diagnosed in one of our schools, who will make the decision to close school? And that will actually come from our Department of Public Health. And they are actually at this moment coming up with guidelines, and they will advise us on when we need to close schools and what actions we need to take. So I think that that's all I have to share with you this evening. I am here in my office always. Please contact me if you have specific questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. We appreciate all that information. It's quite a lot. And as Ms. Smith shared, our conditions are constantly changing. So it's so important that we have a positive relationship with our Department of Public Health, who stays in tune with the current guidelines and advises us and guides us on our next steps. About had to do with students who have disabilities or have an IEP. And she has quite a lot of information to share with you. So I want to, with a disability or a child who has an IEP, then you will be receiving an email notification that has all of this information in there. Ms. Taylor has created a separate survey for parents of children with disabilities so that we can see your intentions if you're looking at the virtual option or the face-to-face option, so we can best plan for your child's individual needs. And she's going to be sharing more information about that with you, but we will post that information. She's created a frequently asked questions document, and we'll post that information along with everything she's about to tell you so that you have access to that in writing as well. So Ms. Taylor, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Leanne. Thanks, families and staff, for the opportunity to answer your questions and provide some additional clarification for this evening. First, I want to start talking about some of the options for students with IEPs and that are currently receiving special ed support. We have both options. We hope we will be offering, of course, as you know, for students to return to the brick and mortar, to our traditional school setting. And then we also are offering a virtual option for all students pre-K through 12th grade who have an IEP. So if they are returning to school, which is our desire in our brick and mortar, we will continue with their services that we've already outlined in their IEP. And we'll make any adjustments that need to be made as we meet with families when we return. We also, for our pre-K through 12th, we have a virtual option, and for these students, we will develop a contingency plan, as services are going to look a little bit different in the virtual setting, so we'll need to make those changes and work with families closely. Both options will include access to both the general ed curriculum and a modified curriculum based on the student's needs. We will work closely with our pre-K through 5th grade. We'll work closely with those that are delivering and developing the general education virtual setting to ensure that we, again, are providing access to general ed and modified curriculum. For K-12, we're going to be working closely with Forsyth Virtual to ensure, again, that we have access to both general ed and modified curriculum so that we can provide those students' needs through the contingency plan. First, I kind of want to just say a couple of things about returning back to school in a traditional school setting. I hope that with the information that Debbie provided, that our families are starting to feel a little bit more secure about sending their students to school. As we know, students with disabilities, they really learn best when they're provided instruction face-to-face with teachers and their related service providers. So that's truly our #1 desire. As you know, that Forsyth County has drafted guidelines for the healthy, safe in response to COVID-19, which the board will approve or review on Thursday night. Special ed staff will follow all district guidelines to ensure that equipment and shared materials are routinely disinfected. And Forsyth County has health and safe guidelines already in place for physical interaction of students, which include toileting needs and positioning and feeding of our more medically involved students. Should a child have an individual medical need, please share those with your child's case manager along with any medical documentation. That way we can work with you so that you feel comfortable having your student return to school. Again, we encourage families with children with disability to allow their child to attend school so that we may fully implement the student's IEP as written to provide all needed services. However, if a family does choose to go virtual, we have worked really closely and hard in our department to make that happen because we want to make sure that our families do have the option of what they feel learning environment is most safe for their students. So, as I had said, we are going to develop contingency plans, and these are not amendments to IEPs, but they're only relevant during the time of such displacement due to, like, for example, a COVID-19 school closure. These contingencies may include alternate models such as online or virtual instruction, might include instructional phone calls, other curriculum-based activities. These contingency plans may identify which special ed and related service, if any, can be provided virtually. When your child does return to the brick and mortar setting, the previous written IEP will resume and the contingency plan will be put back on hold. So during that virtual option, these were a couple of things we wanted to let families also know. That all students receiving special ed services in the virtual option will be assigned a case manager. That case manager will be a certified teacher. The case manager may be different from the one assigned as the case manager in your actual school building, as we have to make adjustments to make sure everyone is covered. Case managers will be responsible for ensuring that specially designed instruction is provided. These case managers will collaborate with other virtual providers and the families to determine appropriate services and support for each student participating in the virtual learning environment. And that's going to be done individually with each family. Case managers will provide ongoing support for family and other virtual providers to ensure services and supports are implemented. And service providers will collect data based on the student's goals and objectives that were outlined in the contingency plan. So we want all parents to know that we will be providing as much service as possible and working with families very closely so that they feel like their needs are being met. For instruction, we've had a couple of questions that you had sent in that, kind of what does instruction look like? So we want you to know that there's going to be a combination of the following. We're going to have direct instruction that's going to be real time. Some of those direct instruction will be individualized and some of them will be group instruction. We also will have student directed assignments and activities throughout the day in the student setting. And I know that Rebecca Johnson will kind of outline in general too about what it will look like for all students. Accommodations and supports necessary to access instruction in the virtual environment will be outlined again in the student's contingency plan. Service for students who are eligible to receive speech, therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, all of those will be available via a teletherapy platform, which we are currently using, which are our virtual ESY program. And then kind of also, I wanted to talk a little bit about the parent or the guardian's role as a learning coach. And again, I know Rebecca will touch on this too, but we really feel like this is a critical component for the student to be successful in the virtual education setting. The teacher is not physically able to provide supervision in the virtual setting. Therefore, we must have a dedicated adult performing the supervisor role. So what does that kind of look like? We want that learning coach to monitor the student's academic performance daily. We want to ensure that students all attend all the live sessions and follow the set learning schedule. We need a learning coach to hold the student accountable for completing required assignments and assessments, to provide the level of assistance that the student requires to actively participate in services. So that may mean help with redirect, visual, verbal, gestural, physical prompts, all of those, which our staff will be helping provide some additional coaching to parents to understand each of those. Regular communication with the student's teacher regarding any questions and concerns. And then, of course, ensuring that the student does have access to the live instruction and assignments on a daily basis. We will also work with our families for any assistive technology needs that they may have for that student. And then lastly, as Leanne had shared, we are working on getting all this information in one document, because I know that was a lot that we just covered, so that you can have it and that you can refer back to it when you have any additional questions. We are also doing a survey to better understand the parents that do want to consider a virtual learning option, for them to complete that survey just as our K-5 one does, but to complete it by July 14th. But that survey is going to be pre-K through 12th grade. So even if you've already done one of the other surveys through Forsyth Virtual or for K-5 Virtual, we still want you to complete the one that's going to go out to all parents that have students with disabilities. So it doesn't matter if you've done it twice already, but we do want to make sure we don't miss anyone. So we, again, will include that link on that information that we push out to families. And just know that our special ed staff will contact, if you're going to pick a virtual option, our special ed staff will contact you, and they will set up a pre-planning meeting to develop that contingency plan. So a lot of our staff, we have a position called special ed facilitator that work closely with the schools, and they will be back on July 15th. And on day one from them, we are actually doing a lot of training with them about the contingency plan. So they'll be ready to support the schools and be able to meet with families that make that option. And then if you have any other concerns about if you are sending your child to school and there's some concerns that you have, or you might want to ask further questions about the schedule and and tweaks that might be made in the building, that's definitely, again, something that you can redirect to your building level administrating and to your case manager about how those needs can be addressed with your child. So again, we want to work really closely with our families. I think that you're going to find that we're really flexible, and our ultimate goal is to meet the students' needs as we move forward into the 2021 school year. And I think that is all I have, Leanne. Thank you.
Sarah, thank you so much. That was quite a bit of information, but we really appreciate how your department has been working over the last few weeks to really think about our students with special needs and how we can afford families the same option that we're giving every other family, whether they choose the face-to-face school-based option or an at-home virtual option. And so parents, if you do have children with special needs, I do encourage you to complete that survey that Sarah's team will be sending out to all parents of children with IEPs. And as she said, one of the special ed staff members will be in contact with you to set up a meeting to discuss the contingency plan if you're choosing that virtual option. So we do appreciate this extra attention that you all are giving our families.
Absolutely.
Now, with that being said, we're going to move to what a typical day would look like in the virtual setting. As I shared at the beginning, we've talked about that last spring when COVID hit and our school district had to shut down with only a few days notice. Our distance learning was a little bit different than what we would expect. At this time of year, we are in new learning. We're introducing new standards. We're not at the end of a school year where the majority of the standards have been taught. And so we do need it to look differently. We do need to have direct instruction. We need to have high engagement, high levels of communication. We have taken the feedback that you've given us regarding your experience in the spring virtual learning to heart. And so we've worked very hard at the district level to try to address those concerns. And one of the most important ones that we address, we're very grateful that Dr. Bearden listened to parent concerns about not having a virtual option for kindergarten through 5th grade. And so we have a team here at our central office that's working very diligently to create the curriculum, the schedule, the lessons and activities, and the structure for what that virtual learning will look like. And so our director of elementary education is one of the people heading up that work. Rebecca Johnson is with us to tell you a little bit more about what the virtual learning experience will be like for kindergarten through 5th grade students. Ms. Johnson?
Well, good evening, everyone. It looks like I'm the caboose on the town hall meeting train, and I can't tell you how glad I am to be here, and what a great opportunity it is just to share the work being done by our teachers over the summer, by our principals, and by system level leaders. There's some great work that's been done. I want to remind everyone that this K-5 virtual option is just that. It's an option. It's not a separate entity. It's not what we did last year at the end of the year. And it's not a school unto itself. It is an extension of the school site, of the great work going on in our elementary brick and mortar schools. I so appreciate the vision that Dr. Bearden has cast for us, insisting that we have high quality instruction in a virtual environment as well as in our school environment. And so with that vision, we have moved forward to design a virtual experience that I think will be wonderful for every learner, for all our students. So understanding that this, as Dr. Bearden says, mirrors what's going on in our schools, the first change you'll see, if we compare it to what happened at the end of last year, is that the K-5 virtual experience will occur 5 days a week, and it will be a full day experience. Now, please don't think I'm saying that your child will sit in front of a computer for 6.5 hours. We do not believe in that. And Dr. Bearden is the chief leader on really addressing the needs of a whole child and addressing the needs of their heart as well as their mind. And so we don't think it's healthy or good for children to be sitting in front of a screen all day. So the program that we're developing is a mix of online activities, face-to-face experiences, as well as what I would call low tech, which might be a big drawing pad and a set of crayons. It is a variety, there's a lot of novelty in it, and I think that what we're doing is going to lead to high engagement for our learners. So that's the first difference, 5 days a week and a commitment of time. I would say 5 to 6 hours a day. And that will make more sense when I go over a sample schedule for the day. I also want to share with you that we will address the core subjects of ELA, which is comprised of reading, writing, speaking, and listening, the ways of communicating. We'll be addressing math, we'll address social studies, and we'll also address science. In addition to that, our students will have specials each day. The specials being offered will be PE, art, and music. We're really excited about the design work being done in those special areas for our children. We believe that their creativity is so well addressed in the areas of specials. So just know that that will be a part of their daily experience. I do want to address one thing that I saw when I read through all the feedback. I can't thank you enough for the feedback you sent to us. It's helped us be better, and it's helped us to better understand what your children need. There were questions about what is synchronous learning and what is asynchronous learning. So synchronous learning is live learning. For example, when a teacher hosts a live session, maybe you think of it like this. The student and the teacher sync up for learning together at a given time. Or the teacher and a small group sync up at a given time for learning. Asynchronous learning can happen anytime or any place. There's more independence and freedom in it. And we believe for our young learners that it's important that we have a balance of both synchronous learning, live sessions with teachers, being able to connect with friends, and asynchronous learning where you learn independently at your own time, most likely making your own choices and expressing your preferences about how you want. So just as I talk through this, know that synchronous will be a live session, asynchronous, independent learning. So with that said, and making sure that you understand the computer time will be limited, let me run through a possible day in the life of a virtual student in elementary school. Now, this is not a set schedule because our schools, as you know, in the brick and mortar schools, they set their own schedules. Teachers develop plans that meet the needs of their own learners. So don't grab a pen and a piece of paper and start jotting this down quickly, thinking this is exactly the way it will be. That's not the purpose of going over a typical day. What I want to do is just give you some insight into what will be involved. So, a typical day in the life of a virtual elementary student, it might start around 8 o'clock. And at 8 o'clock, there might be asynchronous or synchronous learning through a class meeting. So at this class meeting, the teacher will welcome everyone and will set the tone of learning for the whole day, the excitement of what's going to occur. The teacher will probably explain the goals, what children will be learning, what they will be doing, and make connections with students so the teacher can read how they are doing. If it's asynchronous, the teacher might post a video of a class meeting. So it will probably, that opening class meeting will probably be a blend of both face-to-face sometimes, and sometimes just clicking in and seeing a video. And from that class meeting, which is a springboard into learning for the day, the student may go right into ELA, English Language Arts, which is made up of reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And for an hour and a half, or perhaps 2 hours, students will be engaged in reading authentic text with peers, sharing text, talking about what they're reading, or perhaps they will click on and watch a video of their teacher read great literature to them, what we call a read-aloud. Or perhaps they will join a group of students who are working on a similar writing skill. Or perhaps they will join their teacher for a one-on-one conference where that child will read to the teacher and the teacher will listen and assess how the child is doing with personalized goals and support that child, coaching them along the way to grow as a reader and also as a writer. So that'll be a rich literacy experience for our students. After that work, you can well imagine that our students might need a brain break. That's just time to walk outside, take a walk, get out in the sunshine, maybe play a little bit, free time. Our brains need that. It's good for us to take a break and have some free time. From there, let's say that last 20 minutes, our students might jump into math work. And again, this could be synchronous, where students join their teacher for a math lesson, and the teacher is demonstrating with manipulatives like cubes or dice or counters, a math skill that they are learning and working on. It also could be a time where students are working independently. Math would last about an hour, which would take us to 11:30 or 12. And just like in the brick and mortar school, it would be time for lunch. So certainly we would build into the schedule 30 minutes for lunch, again, giving the children a brain break, some time to disengage, to rest a little bit. And then after that, we might actually build in a recess for them where they can play, or they can play inside with blocks and things that they love to do, or just spend time talking with you, the adults in their lives, about what they've accomplished in the morning and what they hope to accomplish in the afternoon, the things that we typically do at recess. From recess, 1 o'clock, we would need to jump into social studies and science. Again, this could be asynchronous. Children might be working on experiments in their home. Teachers could post assignments and students could carry those out. Or there might be stories that children read about great Americans, that they're able to make connections with that learning to what they learned during their literacy block earlier during the morning. At 1:45 or around 2, the children might go to specials. And specials might be on, let's say, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, PE, Tuesday, music, Thursday, art, where children would have the opportunity to do what children need to do, play and learn and create. The end of the day might include a short period of time where teachers can meet, again, face-to-face, and help students who need a little extra support or who need to be extended because they've already mastered the standards being taught. So we call that a mentoring time. And then at the end of the day, there would be a closure, another class meeting, where teachers pull their learners together and talk to them about what a great day it had been, give them the opportunity to reflect on the structure, the routine, the accomplishments of the day, and then set a vision of what the next day will hold to get our children excited about their future learning. So that just gives you an idea. And again, it's just a sample of what a day in the life of K-5 elementary virtual world might look like. Now, with me explaining all that, you might be saying, Mamma mia, that's a lot of learning. And indeed it is, and it's a lot of work for our teachers. But everyone in this community knows that Forsyth County has some of the best teachers in the world. And they are excited about this opportunity. Our system, our principals, and our teachers are working hard to identify at different schools who might step up and be a teacher in this virtual world. I want to say that you will have a teacher that is dedicated to you and to your child or your children. However, that might not be a teacher that is teaching in your home school. It might be a teacher from a neighboring school. So we can guarantee, just like we do in our brick and mortar schools, that it will be a high quality, wonderful teacher from Forsyth County schools. But we're not guaranteeing that it'll be a teacher from your home school. So just keep that in mind. Also, at times, your child might be involved in learning with that one dedicated teacher, and another teacher might come in just to learn from the experience, or to offer support, or to help extend that learning, whatever your child's needs might be. We believe in identifying the individual needs of our learners and then doing whatever it takes to meet those needs. Now, one final thing. I think with all of this, you can understand the critical nature of the adult at home, whether it's parent or loved one or family friend, that is at that child's side, guiding them and supporting them all the way through the day. Our youngest learners, elementary students, they can't do this on their own. They need adults in their lives that will help them to navigate, to make sense of, and to access learning that's occurring in the virtual environment. So as the parent, you will be the learning coach. Early in the school year, as we start this journey, I imagine it's going to be 100% of the time, all hands on deck, as you help your child understand the platforms we're using, understand how to connect to meetings, understand what the teacher is asking. You need to be right there at their side. As the year goes on, and as our children become more independent, where they have more self-management, more self-discipline, they're more self-directed, you'll probably be able to step back, which is a good thing. That's what we want. We want them to be independent. And you might only support them 25 to 50% of the time. It just depends on your individual child and what they need. And as you can well imagine, the younger the child, the more support they will need. For our kindergarten and our first grade students, they're emerging readers. They can't read everything we put out there, and writers. So they will need you throughout this process. But I'm excited about it. I think we really are on the right road to creating a learning experience that is very high quality, that will meet the needs of all and assure high success and high performance. The final thing I would say as a parent that you will need to do is that you will need to partner with your dedicated teacher to communicate, to talk often, to explain what's going on, to share your observations, to share your conversations with your child, so that together, in partnership, we can meet the needs and offer a great experience. So with that, Leanne, I'll wrap it up.
Thank you, Rebecca. We appreciate that detailed information. What experience is going to be like with our kinder through fifth grader. beginning, we do want the at-home experience to mirror the rigor, the high expectations, the experience that students in our brick and mortar schools are going to have. We don't want any child in our district to be at a loss or a disadvantage based on the choice they make. So, you know, parents, we know, again, this is a huge decision for you. You have a lot of things to consider, including the needs of your family, the health situation in your family, what the experience is going to be like in the face-to-face setting versus what you can do and support in your home setting. And so our purpose tonight was really to answer the many questions that were submitted to us to help you further make the best decision for your family. And we hope that no matter which choice you make, that you recognize that Forsyth County Schools is here to support you and support your family and make sure your child gets the best educational experience possible. I know there's a lot of information that we just shared from all three of our directors. And again, I want to thank Debbie Smith, who's our Director of Student Services, Sarah Taylor, who's our Director of Special Education, and Rebecca Johnson, who is our Director of Elementary Education, for providing such detailed information about the areas in which they serve. We are compiling a list of these questions and the information we've provided in a FAQ document that'll be posted on our Restart Forsyth webpage. Trying to get that uploaded for you tomorrow as we compile all this information for you. We know it's helpful not only to hear it, but also to have something tactile that you can read and refer to in that. To remind you that Thursday at 4 p.m., our Board of Education is going to review the draft guidelines for return to school. The link to that meeting is also posted on our website. You can tune in live online and see for yourself the discussion that's going on with those guidelines. Hopefully those guidelines will be approved, and at our town hall meeting on Friday at noon, Dr. Bearden will join us and will provide us that were approved by our board. I do also, before we leave tonight, just want to share again, these are big decisions that we're having to make, and we know not every decision we make is going to meet the exact needs of every member of our community. But I do want to reassure you, we're taking your feedback. We're working with the public entities that we have, like the Department of Public Health, the CDC. We're listening to the research that's put out by the American Academy of Pediatrics. We're really working hard to make sure that we are first and foremost providing a safe environment for your children. And then secondly, that we are providing a high level of education for your children as well. Within this, I do want you to know that our superintendent, Dr. Bearden, as well as our directors, are meeting collaboratively with other people across the state and especially in the Metro Atlanta area. And we're working together and problem solving and sharing ideas as we determine how this is going to look in Forsyth County so that we can consider as many different contingencies as possible. All of our information is changing. The situation in our state is changing constantly, and we want to make sure that we're ready for the different scenarios that may present themselves to us. In addition, our building principals have been so busy working and collaborating, and they're anticipating eagerly the approval of these guidelines Thursday afternoon. They're taking these guidelines that have been presented and hopefully will be approved at the board meeting. And once those are approved, they're thinking about how this is going to look in their buildings. We have lots of different buildings across our district, different sizes, different needs. And so the principals have been collaborating extensively to share information with each other and ideas, and what these guidelines will look like in their buildings. So please know that our principals are working diligently to get this information to what this is going to look like within their own buildings. We know you probably still have questions about specific things that would be in your child's building. And so I encourage you to follow that information coming out from your building level principals and to reach out to your individual schools for any specific information. If you have further questions that we didn't answer tonight, or maybe some of our information generated new questions for you, then we encourage you to continue to submit questions to our Restart Forsyth webpage. And we'll review those questions in the next few days as we prepare for the town hall meeting on Friday at noon. We'll come back and we'll address for you. We also want to remind you that the deadline for submitting your intention for the virtual K-5 school is Tuesday, July 14th. We did extend that deadline. We heard a lot of feedback from you that it wasn't fair for you to make a decision when you didn't know what have graciously accepted that extension of the deadline as they're continuing to plan for the students' return. But we do ask that you submit that by July 14th. We're sharing the list of names with as well as their virtual students. They are going to be, as we've shared before, having to reassign teachers within their building. And if there aren't enough students in their building to generate a teacher for virtual learning, then they're collaborating with neighboring schools so that they can provide a teacher that might serve several schools in the area. But as you can imagine, this is taking a lot of planning. Principals are having to redesign their master schedules, reformulate their class list based on who's virtual and who's face-to-face. It is taking a significant amount of time. And so that is why we're asking for the deadline to be July 14th. I also wanted to share, in the spirit of collaboration, this is a community that comes together and supports one another, and we're so appreciative to live and work in Forsyth County. And with that spirit, our employees at the central office are given the opportunity on the first day of school to attend a school building and to jump in and support and help out where needed. We know that our car lines are probably going to be longer than normal as many parents choose to bring their children to school instead of ride the bus. We know that there's a lot of cleaning that's going to need to take place, helping manage movement in the hallways, helping supervise some of the different transitions and things. So I think it's important to note also that we'll have many staff members from our central office who are seeing firsthand what is going on in the buildings and how we can continue to support the principals and the teachers and the students in the buildings with our resources and supports at the district level. So with that being said, parents and community members, we appreciate your time so very much tonight. I know we've shared a lot of information. We've taken a good amount of time of yours this evening, but we appreciate your attention and your participation. And again, if you have further questions, please go to our Restart Forsyth webpage. Continue to submit those questions. Continue to register your children for the online option if that's what you're choosing. And we hope that we can continue to provide you with information to make the very best decision possible for your family. We hope you have a great evening, and we look forward to seeing you either at the board meeting on Thursday or at our next town hall on Friday. Have a wonderful evening.